Hello, how are you? Hey, so while I wait for some people to come in, I just wanted to let you know why I'm doing a live event right now. Yesterday, I shared different things on my Instagram account. Now, currently, I'm live both on Instagram and YouTube. So for the ones that come from YouTube, first, I recommend you to go to Instagram and follow me. And second, yesterday, I shared different stories there about some silly things, right? For instance, that I got a selfie stick, which is the one that is holding the phone right now, and laughing about the idea of becoming, hey, Ayale, how are you? And laughing about the idea of becoming an Instagrammer, and I just randomly said that I was going to share uh, a story with an open question, and then I would answer those questions. So so what I've decided is to answer those questions live today, both on Instagram and on YouTube. So that way, for the people that are not so used to Instagram, they can go to YouTube and see it too. So what I'm going to do is to answer the questions that I have from this question that I did yesterday, and then if some more questions come in during the live event, uh, I'll answer them too. So feel free to ask more questions about anything. I said that I was going to answer anything, and obviously, unless it's something very weird, I will do it. So I'm going to get started with the questions that I have here. Let me check it because I have them here. Instagram shows them, and if I click here, I think you can see it on the screen. If the people from Instagram can see it, please let me know. The first question is about MVP versus MVVM. This is a question that I get pretty often. I must say that there are questions about Android and some others totally unrelated to it. Maybe some of the questions are you don't care about at all, but anyway, I'll answer anything as I said. So the first question was MVP versus MVVM. What do I think about these two approaches? The first thing I want to mention about this is that most people consider these patterns as architectural patterns. And in my opinion, this is a little tricky. It's true that they are called like that, but I prefer to call them presentation patterns. And what's the reason about this? Because in the end, they are only modeling the presentation of the app. Hey, Juan Francisco. They are only modeling that part of the app, and then if we only stick to that, if the app grows a lot, we'll see that everything becomes very messy because the M of this MVP or MVVM, it's in big apps is a great part of the app, maybe 75% or so. So if we are only modeling the interaction of the UI with the model, we are missing a great amount of our app that is not being modeled in any ways. But said that, if we are talking about how to model the presentation of our app and regarding MVP or MVVM, my opinion is that it doesn't matter. We are very worried, I think, about that these days. But in my opinion, they are not that different. In fact, most of the uses that I've seen of MVVM, in fact, they are a variant of MVP. If we don't use data binding on Android, we are not completely sticking to the idea of MVVM. So my personal opinion is that MVP has some good things and some bad things, and the same for MVVM. In the case of MVP, it's very useful because it's quite simple, first, and second, because we can do that part, the presenter, unaware of anything related to Android. Imagine that we are creating an app using Kotlin native to say something. We could strut that presenter to the to the shared part because we are not tying our presenter to anything related to Android. Of course, we could do it, but if we are cautious enough, or if we extract that part to a module that is only Java, we are efficiently abstracting the presenter from the framework. So this can be helpful under some situations. And the other second part that I've seen is that MVVM, as it's so tied to the life cycle of the activity, then it prevents you from doing some different things. For instance, if I'm creating an object that needs the context of the activity for some reason, and I want to use it from the presenter, of course, if you are abstracting this correctly, I don't want to get too much into it, but if you abstract it correctly and then you are using the activity from that component because you require it, for instance, to navigate to another activity or something similar, with the presenter is very easy because when the activity is created, the presenter is created, and when the activity is destroyed, the presenter is destroyed too. So you are not in danger of remaining with the whole activity and having some issues because the activity that you are using now is dead. As the presenter dies with the activity, there's no issue there. On the other hand, MVVM was created by the MVVM that we use on Android, of course, was created by Google, and it's part of the Jetpack architecture components. So this means that all the libraries that are related to the Jetpack set of libraries are going to work much better and much easier with MVVM because everything is like an ecosystem that is perfectly thought to work together. So if we use MVVM, many things are going to be easier. For instance, MVVM matches perfectly with live data, with data binding, with Room, etc. Everything can work so that the MVVM simplifies a lot of the work. Also, as you may know, the view model survives the configuration changes of the activity, and this is in part good because the state is not destroyed when the activity is destroyed, so you don't need to recreate the state again every time the activity dies. On the other hand, it has the problem that I mentioned at the beginning related to the MVP, where I found that the MVP is a little more flexible in that matter. But long story short, if you want to use one or the other, both are going to be good enough. And if you are already using MVP on your projects and it's working for you, I would never recommend to migrate to MVVM unless you have a very good reason to do it. Just because it's the new fashion, I wouldn't do it, of course. Okay, so next one. Let me see, because it appears cut. I guess that he's saying what to choose: current job with average pay but good work, or new job with high pay but no so good work. And this is very personal, and it depends on your current situation and if you can afford to be paid less and the ambition of everyone. But in my personal opinion, I would go for a work that you know you are going to enjoy and are going to learn a lot from the other people in that company and get paid less, rather than going to a place where you feel comfortable because of the money but not because of everything else. Because if you do that, maybe in the end you become too comfortable, and when new opportunities arise, you are not going to take them because you are highly paid, even if they are better or you can learn more from them. So in my personal opinion, always the the good work and the passion goes first, because that way you will grow much faster in your career, and in the end you will overcome that previous paid job quite probably. As an example, and even if it's not exactly the same, in my previous company, I was earning much more than what I earn nowadays as a freelance trainer, but I feel much more fulfilled with what I'm doing right now. And my previous job, I must say that it was awesome and I enjoyed it a lot, but this is it's in another situation completely, because I'm doing what I want and I'm uh, following my passion and my dreams. So my recommendation is that if you can afford it, go for the good work instead of the well-paid job. Next one. Well, this is in Spanish, but he's asking me what football team I follow, and I must say, and maybe I lose some followers, that I don't care at all about football. I don't watch any any games, and I don't follow it at all. So if you ask me, I wouldn't even know what to answer, because honestly I don't care at all about football, and I don't watch in general any sports on the TV. So I'm sorry if I defraud some of my followers here on Instagram or on YouTube, but I'm not into football at all. Next one. What do you think about Flutter? So if you want something a little more detailed, I have a post on Instagram talking about Flutter versus Kotlin and all that. But in particular about Flutter, I think it's a very promising technology. In fact, I said like 1 or 2 years ago, I said that if I had enough time, I would have done with Flutter the same I did with Kotlin, write the first book and start writing a lot of articles, because I have the impression, and this is always an impression, it can never happen. I have the impression that this is going to be an important technology and something to follow very closely in the future. As of today, um, I don't think that Flutter can substitute Android native apps in many situations, in particular in big products that need a, a long road, that are going to be updated and improved for a long time. For product companies, I would normally go for a native solution. But for instance, for companies that cannot afford having to developers, or cannot afford paying for another company to do to apps, or even now that it also can be used on web, even 3 apps. For those companies that want to test how their apps go without spending a lot of money, I think that Flutter can be a very interesting solution. My impression, as it was the same impression that I have with React Native, is that when you try to do something complicated, this is going to you are going to find a dead point, and you are going to need to do the native part. And at that point, you will then require some specialists in those technologies to continue the work. But for simple apps that want to test the market and don't want to spend a lot of money, I see it as a very powerful technology, and I haven't gotten into it very deep yet, but it's one of the things that I would like to learn in the short term, because I think it can be a very interesting technology in the following years. Nice. So next one. When do we really need to use MVVM and when not? In general, I would use MVVM or MVP or a presentation pattern for almost any situations. If you ask me a situations when I wouldn't use it, maybe for a very, very simple screen where you don't need to do anything with the model. Maybe you have just some links that lead to a external page or something like that. Maybe in those cases, I would consider not using it and do everything in the activity. But I need to have it very clear that this is not going to grow and that we are not going to need anything extra. Because imagine that tomorrow in your company they ask you to send analytics to the server when someone clicks on that link, then things start becoming complicated, and you will need at that point a presentation pattern so that you can test all that. So in my personal opinion, unless you are very sure that the screen is very simple and that it doesn't require a test because it's so obvious that it's not going to crash, in any other ways, I would use a presentation pattern like MVVM, MVP, MPI, whatever you prefer. So, yeah, I think that covered what you were asking here. How do you feel about Chelsea in new season? I don't know if he refers about football again. So if that's the case, I don't feel anything about it. Sorry, unless about if I know a little, it can be about the Spanish league, but outside Spain, I have nothing at all. And even in Spain, don't ask me because I probably couldn't answer. Next one. How to make money while learning Android? Uh, that's a difficult question. To be honest, I don't know. Let me think. If you are at this point not able to work at any companies because you don't have the knowledge that is required to work on a company, in my opinion, I cannot think of anything extra that is related to technologies. Of course, you, for instance, could find a part-time job that doesn't require any skills to earn some money, or maybe help on other tasks. I don't know, like, or maybe create a little online business, but in general, at the very moment that you start doing things like this is going to take you so much time that you'll probably stop learning Android. So unless you can find a part-time job or even work in a place where they don't pay you, but you learn Android faster, I cannot think on much else. In the end, you need some kind of skill to be hired in a company. So that's the first step before going anywhere else. Maybe find what I mentioned, find a part job in something unrelated that doesn't require any specific skills, and earn some little money that then you can use to keep learning Android. Mm-mm. Well, this one is nothing related to the questions. I shared yesterday on a story uh, a little forest that is close here, close to my house, and the online world is so small that another person that lives close here recognized the place, and he's also an Android developer, so it was really fun to find him. Maybe we should meet each other one day, because this is such a coincidence that I was very glad to find someone else close to here, because I live, for the ones that don't know, I live in Spain, in Madrid, which is the capital of the country. But then I don't live in the center of Madrid, but in a town in the outskirts. So it's not so easy that someone else lives here. But it was fun to find another person around that is following me on Instagram. Can you explain architecture designs pattern like MVVM in a simple, easy way to understand? For that, I have a couple of articles about MVP and about MVVM, and I recommend you to take a look because I try them to be as much as easier as possible, and I think they are very easy to understand. I recommend you to go that way, first MVP and then MVVM, because I explained some ground concepts in MVP and then compared MVP to MVVM in this second article. So I recommend you to go both in antonioliva.com if you want them in English, or devexperto.com if you want them in Spanish, and then I recommend you to go for there from there. And if you have any questions, maybe we can uh, make a longer conversation in the future regarding those things. And I also watched some question about clean architecture and MVVM and all that. I'm seeing also some question in the chat, but I think there's a feature or a questions feature. If you can use it on Instagram, I mean, on YouTube, I can follow the chat because there are not much movement, but on Instagram it's a little bit more difficult to follow it. So if you can use that, use it. If not, I'll try to get back into the chat later. I'm seeing some questions about that and how it relates to clean architecture and all that. And I must say that all that will be explained in my course Architect Coders that I'm preparing the release in Spanish for the end of October. I can announce now, and we will talk about all this. And maybe by the end of the year, depending on how it goes in Spanish, I will do it in English. So there you will see the whole picture from solid principles to presentation patterns, architecture, dependency injection, testing. So we go from the very beginning to the very end, so that a person that is right now writing their code in the activity can follow the whole path to write testable app and test them in the end. So this is going to be a huge program that I'm really glad. There have been 25 people already in a beta release that I did some months ago, and it has gone really well. They are very happy with the content, so I'm really looking forward to release it. But you will need to wait a little more because these things are huge if you want to do it the right way. And that's it. Regarding MVP and MVVM, I have a couple of articles, so please go there and take a look. Hey, Nicolas, long time no talk to you, but hopefully we will do it in the future. Why my app is consuming so much of RAM? This is obviously a very broad question that I can't know. Maybe because you are leaking things, or maybe because you are loading very big objects, very big images. I don't know. It can be a lot of things, and there are several tools in Android Studio to check what's happening, like the memory analyzer and things like that. So I recommend you to take a look at that, learn how to use those tools that the Android Studio provides because they are really powerful. So take a look, and maybe you can find it like that. Let's see more. Any tips for better time management between parenting and being active in community? Good question. My only way to keep being active in the community and parenting, that many of you will probably know that it was, I did it, I was, we had a child 1 year ago, more or less. So my only way to manage to do everything was to quit my job and focus only on training and on teaching, and that way I can be here today, for instance, instead of working on a regular job. So there's no easy way. I've learned that becoming a parent, even if you want to, especially if you want to spend a lot of time with your children, is very, very time consuming, and it's very difficult to compatibilize with a regular job. I couldn't imagine if I was in a regular job. I can't imagine how I could deal with not seeing my daughter more than 1 hour per day. So yeah, it's difficult to make everything compatible. And what I would try, if it's possible for you, is to take 1 hour before going work, and trying to spend time on that moment to do other things. Like, I don't know if active in community means writing articles. If that's the case, you could write articles there. If it's going to events, try to do it right after the job. I don't know, once per month or once per 2 months. But it's not easy. I can say it's pretty complex to do that. I just realized that the microphone that I'm using on YouTube, it was not in front of me, so maybe you were listening to me a little loud. Okay, but hopefully you were listening to me, because I see questions, so probably it was okay. Let's go to the next one. Are we going to be able to buy an architect coder t-shirt without being in the course? That's a good question. I haven't considered what I'm going to do with the t-shirts, because for instance, for the beta launch that I did, I gave them for free, but it's all the infrastructure that you need to print the t-shirts, send them. It's complicated, and then if it's outside Spain, in my case, it's very, very expensive, far more than printing the t-shirt. So let's see. Maybe I can put it somewhere that they print them on demand and send them, and that way anyone can get it. But I haven't thought about it yet, to be honest. If I see that there's interest, maybe I can put it so that anyone can get it. Let's see more. How difficult is it for a foreigner to get a job as an Android developer in Spain? Well, it's probably not very easy if you don't have a good control of the language, a good control of Spanish, because it's not like in other countries, for instance, like in Germany, where you can go with your good level of English and find a job. In Spain, most companies use Spanish on their day-to-day work, so you need to know it to become a part of the team. That's a shame, but the level of English, the English level in Spain hasn't been is historically very good, and this shows in things like this, where in other countries, even if they have another not much used language, you can go there and work in English. Here in Spain is not the same. So difficult, I think. Learn Android at 16. I guess that he means 16-year-olds. If you enjoy programming and want to learn something that is very, very nice, because what I find awesome about mobile technologies is that with very few knowledge, you can start doing things and see them working in your phone. It's true that to master them, then that's a deep learning curve, and I don't know other technologies, but especially Android development is not easy because of how the framework works. But if you feel passionate about it and want to start learning Android, I think that 16 is as good as any other age. Let's see more. What's your favorite Android CI framework? Well, I must say that I haven't used many CI solutions. In the past, I used one that I don't know if I'm going to remember the name, but it was really easy to use and quite powerful in my opinion. I started using it on our previous job, and it was powerful enough. But then it was bought by Apple, and then they discontinued the support to Android. So in a few weeks, we needed to migrate to another solution. It was a shame, as usual, what Apple does with the products they buy. And I know that nowadays there are some like Circle CI and there's Bitrise. I think it's another one that is pretty popular. Initially, I would go with those that do most of the hard work for you, because then you have others like I'm not going to find the name right now. But there are other solutions that are much more powerful and allows you to do a lot of things. Jenkins, that's the one that I was looking for. But on the other hand, they are so difficult to configure that probably as a starter, you are going to leave it without finishing doing the work. So that you can get an idea, most companies have a person or a team dealing with Jenkins and with continuous integration in big products, of course. So this is not something that you can learn in one day or two. So that's what I recommend. Why I recommend starting with those, because it's very easy to set up, and from the very beginning you can start seeing things working, and this is much more rewarding, and probably you will want to keep learning things. Well, let's see. We have like 6 more here. Should I create a blog about software development? How can that be helpful if there are many already? I still think that it's really helpful to write a blog. First, because you develop some other different skills, like the communication skills and the writing skills. Second, because you never know who you are going to help with your article. It's true that there are many out there, but maybe you can answer a question that no one else has solved before, or even you could give a different point of view, and this is always going to be very helpful for someone. If an article can help one or two people, you should be very proud of it, because you are saving a lot of time to them. So I always recommend doing it. It's true that nowadays it's a little bit more difficult than a few years ago, because there are many. But my impression is that most people are writing on Medium and forgetting that having your own platform is going to help you in many different ways. So I recommend you to create a blog on WordPress, for instance, and start writing articles and share them in social networks, in the different weeklies that we have in Android development, even on Reddit or places like this, where it can spread, and maybe you can help some people, and this will probably help you in your future jobs. But let me remind you that this is a long trip. You cannot hope that one or two articles are going to make the difference, because so that you imagine how long I have been writing articles. I've been like 7 or 8 years since I started my first blog, and even nowadays some people don't know about me. So it's not so easy to be well positioned, but at least you will be well positioned for as a group of people that will follow you. And so I really recommend you for many different things. Let's see more. Okay, let me check. Did you register a trademark in Spain? Was expensive? I want to do that from my own. I haven't done it now, but I'm in the process of it. So maybe we can talk and share experiences, because that's something I want to do too, and maybe we can help each other. What entrepreneurship books do you recommend? I already read $100 Startup and Side Hustle. Let me think. Most of the books I've read were not about entrepreneurship by themselves, but more about change of mindset, because I think that we come from our childhood and our environment. We come programmed with a set of ideas that may or may not be real, but that are blocking us and not letting us progress on our dreams and on our goals. So I had to do some kind of self-discovery a few years ago, and I read a lot of books, but more related on those aspects rather than entrepreneurship. For this second part, what I did is relying on mentors that have already followed the path that I want to follow, and that way I've managed to progress much faster than if I have done it on my own. But I must admit that I don't read many books, and that's not good. But that's something that I want to fix somehow in the future. But so I cannot give you more recommendations here right now. How do you balance between keep up to date on new technologies and being a father? Again, now as I'm a freelance trainer, I have some time, not a lot to be honest, but some time to learn on my own, and that's how I can do it. But if I couldn't, the same I mentioned to another person, if you can wake up an hour earlier and use it to learn new technologies, or even to learn new programming foundations, and that's something I'm going to talk a little more in the future, because we are focusing too much on technologies, on libraries, and in the end, that's not the essence of programming, and that changes so fast that we can never be updated with that. So if I have one recommendation to give you, it would be that focus more on programming foundation, how to write good code, scalable code, testable code, rather than learn this new library, this new framework, this new API, because nobody can follow that progress. When you need something, someday you will probably find it much easier to learn if you already know about the foundations of programming. Let's see more. Advice needed. 9 to 5 job taking all of your energy. You find no time for career progression. It's a bit longer, but I think, or not. But Instagram cuts the questions. So my advice here is, again, find some time that if it can be before your regular job, better, because you have all the energy at that point. But find some time that you can block to progress on your career. For instance, wake an hour earlier, or if you get out from job at 5, that's really good if you compare it with the times in Spain, where you can get out at 6:37 without much problem, and use that time that you have to a bit wisely to learn what you need. I always recommend to do it before your job, because, as you mentioned, if your job is taking all of your energy, when you reach home, you are probably not wanting to continue doing things. So if you can move it before your job and go bed a little earlier, that would be the best. That's what I did when I was working for other companies. I woke up earlier at 6:30 or 7 and start doing things before going to my regular job, so that that way I could progress on other things. And last one here on Instagram, I will go then to YouTube and the Instagram chat. Do you want to become an Instagrammer? that's I guess because of what I published yesterday, and if that helps more people to progress on their Android careers and to become better software developers, if I have to become an Instagrammer to do that, then I will do it. And if these live events help, I will be very happy to repeat it from time to time because it's not a lot of work to me. And then let's move to, for instance, the YouTube one. What do you think about clean architecture with modules like presentation, domain, data, and the clean with core features? Which one you would prefer? I think he's asking the difference between having clean architecture, your app divided by the clean architecture layers or divided by the features. I think that in the case of Android, it's easier to have it divided by features if you have that, because doing all the possible mix makes the number of modules grow exponentially. But there's a point where you will reach the core part of your app that is not related to any features or to any other parts of your app, that it's something that is shared among all the rest of the features. And that part I would still try to organize it by layers if possible, and if it makes sense, of course. Is there a job out there where I can work 9 to 5 and it's not expected to work extra hours, like weekends, for example? It depends. It depends a lot of where you are living. Here in Spain, for instance, extra hours are very popular, though working on weekends is not so normal. So I guess it depends on where you are working and what kind of companies. But if you are not happy with it, try to find, for instance, a remote job or to move to another country if that's the common thing in your country, because probably things are not changing soon. How can you make a company embrace unit testing when there is resistance to it in a company? I've learned in my career progression that you cannot make a whole company change their mind. If you have tried and you still see rejection and that they are not changing, probably the one that is not in the good place, in the good work, is you, because you don't align with the ideas and the philosophy of the company. So you will probably won't be able to change it if you don't find that there's some interest in your leaders or in your colleagues. So my only recommendation is that you're trying to find another place where the culture of the company is more focused into that. He also asked if I was not reading the YouTube questions. As I mentioned, I'm going first on Instagram and then on YouTube, and I'm there already, so I have answered your question already. Can coroutines plus channels plus flow completely replace RxJava? I think that nowadays it's not possible, but with flows in the future, what I read from the leader of Coroutines is that they want to give all the features and all the power of RxJava. They want to implement it on the Flow library, so that with Coroutines plus Flow you can do everything that you do in RxJava. But I don't know RxJava in deep, and I haven't started with Flow yet. So take this with a pinch of salt, because I'm not completely sure about it. Is there any real replacement for Dagger? Kotlin, and others look okay for small projects, but not for big ones. I don't think that nowadays there's a solution. There was another one that was called Typhoon or something like that. I don't remember the name, but I saw in a talk that one person, Danny Pressler, in fact, maybe you know about him, he used another one that he liked it more because it was uh, simpler to use than, Toothpick. Armacode in YouTube told me what it was. Toothpick. I haven't used it, but I know other very clever people like Danny Presley have used it, so it's probably a good thing to investigate. I don't know if it's more powerful or not. Pablo says on YouTube that there's another one called Elfbert. I don't know. That must be German or something like that. That is the new kid on the block. I don't know. Nowadays, I would probably, for a big app, I would probably keep using Dagger because it has proved to be powerful, even if it's a bit complicated to start with. But I would still recommend Dagger probably. And let's see in the Instagram chat if I see something else. Have you tried Vaadin framework? I don't even know what it is, so I can't help. Androgynous C says, nice to see you. Hey, nice to see you too. And I think that's it, because any tips for beginners? The only tip I can give you is that you try to find an idea that you feel very passionate about it and try to convert it into an app, because that way you will have a goal to learn everything. Otherwise, if you are just learning Android as an abstract thing, you will probably end up losing the power and the energy that you need to learn something so big like this. So if you can find like a pet project where you can apply everything that you're learning from and that you feel passionate about it, I recommend you to start with that. Even if at the beginning you are only doing mocked UI and things very simple. That's how I started, and it helped me a lot to find the push and the energy that I needed at that point to learn Android. And that's it, I think. So it's been almost 50 minutes, so I think we can leave it here. Thank you so much for this time being here. Maybe we can, if you like this, let me know in the comments on YouTube. I don't know if the live events on Instagram have comments, or if this can be moved to Instagram TV later. I don't know much about live events on Instagram, but if you can give me your feedback somehow, let me know, and maybe we can repeat this in the future with other questions that may arise. So thank you again for being here, and see you in a next live event or in another video, whatever. I'm sure that we'll find somewhere else around. Bye. Thank you. And have a nice weekend and all that. That today is already Friday. Have a nice weekend and enjoy a little, learn a little if you have time, and have a great weekend. See you. Bye. And how this is. Oh, here it is. Bye, YouTube people too. See you.